All right, welcome everybody to How to Be Successful Resumes. This is our webinar we're presenting today on resumes. And with me today, I have Morgan McLaughlin from Tech Data. She's the University Talent Acquisition Partner. And my partner, Heather Keenest, who is a Senior Career Services Advisor here at Rasmussen. And my name is Randy Harwood, and I'm a Career Service Advisor here at Rasmussen as well. And I'll turn it over to Morgan to tell a little bit more about herself.
Thank you, Randy. Again, everyone, my name is Morgan McLaughlin. I'm the University Talent Acquisition Partner for Tech Data. My position is really centered on engaging with universities and colleges across the Americas, as well as managing our internship program. We actually are based out of Clearwater, Florida as our main Americas headquarters, but we have offices all over the states from Arizona to Texas to Ohio. So if you guys aren't familiar with Tech Data, I'd love to tell you guys a little bit more about who we are and what we do. Tech Data, we are actually a solutions aggregator. So our whole motto and mission is really connecting the world with the power of technology. So we do this by partnering with vendors and partners like Lenovo, Cisco, Apple, HP, and so many more, and helping bring all of their devices and products, as well as services and solutions to end users like you and I. So we're a global corporation. We have an amazing culture, and I'd love to dive a little bit deeper into any other details that you guys would like later into today's event.
Thank you, Morgan. So let's go to Heather and talk about resumes.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here, Morgan. Thank you so much for being here. It's always great to have a different perspective on resume writing and, how to really highlight yourself in writing through your resume, especially coming from an employer. So let's kick this off and talk a little bit about job applications versus resumes and what the difference is. A job application is a legal document, and employers can request as much information as they need and want through this application process. But a resume really belongs to you. It's your marketing tool. It talks about the background that you come from, the experience that you've had, the skills, the qualifications that you can offer up to an employer. And Morgan, I'd like to hear a little bit more insight from you in regard to just the resume versus, keeping that in a succinct one-page document. And we were talking about that a little earlier today.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. And I think, again, what you mentioned, having your resume to one page is really important, especially as someone who's just entering into the job field, right? Aside from that, another key component that I just like to share with everyone is that your resume really highlights what you've done and for how long you've done it, whereas your interview highlights how you did it and what value you could bring to the company you're interviewing with. So you don't have to spread all of the information or all of the jobs and roles and responsibilities that you've done at your past employment on your resume, but what you should do is have a nice overview of your experience as well as your skills and what your intent is to apply to this position. I know you're going to go over that a little bit more in today's webinar, but just really realize that in your interview, that's where you have time to shine and showcase how you made that impact and what transferable skills you could bring back to the company you're interviewing with.
Perfect. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit, about digging into starting that resume and things that you want to be thinking about. Make sure that you're tailoring your resume to the job that you're applying for. Every resume is going to look just a little bit different based on the position that you're applying to. And you want to make sure that you are using a personal, and I say personal professional email address, because sometimes we have personal email addresses that may highlight hobbies that we love or that we're a mom of 4, right? But that's not what the type of email address that we want to be using on our resume. And if you've had a personal email address for a long period of time and it's littered with all kinds of communication and you want to keep that job search separate, feel free to establish a separate email address specifically for your job search. When you're thinking about font styles, make sure that they are easy to read and highlight things in bold, not in color. The top half of your resume really should reflect the industry that you're going into or the position that you're applying to. And make sure that you're adding numbers to quantify accomplishment statements on your resume where you can and when you can. Use reverse chronological order in each section, particularly your education and your work experience section, meaning you're going to start with the most recent first. So if you're currently a student or a recent graduate from Rasmussen, for example, that's going to come first in your education section, and then your certifications and any other education that you have to share. Make sure that you include URLs to any personal websites and media profiles. Balance the text and the white space on your resume. What does that mean exactly? So you've got all kinds of letters and numbers included on this one page, and you want to make sure that you're filling the page horizontally and vertically, and the information balances visually. You know, we talk about having great communication skills, both verbally and in writing. Well, your resume is like your first impression of showcasing your ability to put together a well-written document. So you want to make sure that it's visually appealing. And pay attention to those keywords in those job descriptions. As we said at the top, you want to make sure you're tailoring your resume to the job that you're applying for. Now, I do hear feedback from grads in particular that will say to me, well, I'm looking at this job description. It's super lengthy. I'm qualified in about half of what's on this job. I don't know that I can apply to it. Well, don't make that mistake. You want to think about those transferable skills. And I'd like to turn it over a little bit to Randy to talk a little bit more about the difference between transferable skills and field-specific or industry-specific skills.
Thanks, Heather. Yeah, transferable skills versus field-specific skills is an important kind of designation. Those transferable skills are those skills that you've learned from maybe your past work experience or from school that don't necessarily lend themselves to an industry-specific skill. The things that we highlight here at Rasmussen for transferable skills that you learn in a lot of your classes are highlighted in gold here: critical thinking, communications, digital fluency, information literacy, ethics and professional responsibility, diversity and teamwork. But there are other things too that you learn on the job. Maybe you're working at McDonald's or Target or someplace, and you learn leadership skills and management skills. You learn how to be adaptable to different situations that come up. You learn how to collaborate with your teammates that you're working with. You learn how to speak in public and how to engage the public. You learn time management skills of getting to work on time, getting your work done on time. Also, you'll learn things like customer service, which is a very important transferable skill. And all of those transferable skills can apply to any position that you're applying for. That's why they're called transferable skills. You can transfer them to any job that you apply for or that you do. Now, industry-specific or field-specific skills, some examples that we have here in, say, the early childhood education, you learn about curriculum and instruction, how to be observant, health and safety and nutrition. And in information technology, I'll turn it over to Morgan to tell a little bit more about some industry-specific skills that maybe her company looks for.
Yeah, thank you, Randy. And with information technology, it's really important that you have a good understanding or experience or exposure, whichever, to coding platforms or coding languages that they're most often called. So this could be Java, C, C++, Python. Just as a small tip, just to make sure that you're completely prepared for your interview, I would definitely ask, especially if you have a technical interview, what type of languages your company that you're interviewing with utilizes, so you could prepare ahead of time. On top of that, also being mindful of data visualization platforms. So this is something that I'm continuously seeing in today's workforce. So Tableau is one of the more popular ones that I'm seeing a lot of individuals earn their certification in. So that's just another thing to allow you to stand apart from everyone else. And then finally, industry certifications or Cisco networking. I know CompTIA is pretty valuable as well into this field. But just as a side note, before we do move on, I think you can have all these industry-specific skills, and that's awesome. But it's also very important to have those transferable skills, because that's what makes you adapt to the position, allows you to kind of tackle all of your daily challenges. So it isn't just about knowing everything and anything about the industry, but it's having 50-50 between the two skill sets.
Great information, Morgan. Let's talk a little bit about the sections of the resume. First of all, you want to have, of course, your contact information would just be your first name and your last name. You'll want to have all you need for your address information is city, state, and zip. You don't need your street address on there. Also, your professional email, and then, of course, your phone number, contact number that you can get a hold of you. And also, you want to just use one phone number on there. If you have a home phone and a cell phone, or a work phone and a cell phone, use the phone number, which is typically your cell phone, that you're most easily contacted on. And then if you can also add in there a URL for, say, LinkedIn or a professional Facebook type page, but not your personal Facebook page. Also, then the next thing on there is you want to have a professional summary, and it's not an objective statement. A lot of people put on there that it's an objective statement, that I want to get a job as a coder or as a network administrator. Well, that's why you're sending in your resume. It's obvious. You don't need to take up space to say that. So you want to put an introduction on there that tells about yourself, the skills you have, maybe certifications that you have, things that make you stand out from other candidates. If you're bilingual, that's an important thing to have. More and more companies are looking for someone who's bilingual, and that will make you stand out from other candidates. But also on there, you can read, there's their certifications. They highlight what they're known for, their technical support. So that's what you want to put in there as your introduction. Next comes your skills section. This is where you have that mix of transferable skills and industry-specific skills. You'll look through the job description and notice the ones that they're highlighting and they're asking for. If you have those, by all means, add those on there. But again, don't forget about those transferable skills and put them on there too. As you can see on this example, there's a good mix of both of those types of skills on there. Next comes your education and any certifications that you have. And as Heather said, your most recent education comes first, followed by things that you've done in the past. Certifications are next. And then any experience that you have, that can be professional experience, it can be internship experience, that goes under your experience tab. And again, your newest experience comes first, and then your later experience, your past experience, comes later. One of the quick things to remind you of, make sure that when you're writing these things up as far as your experience, that you use the proper tense. You use present tense for your present job, past tense for your past jobs. There are other optional sections of a resume, professional affiliations, volunteer experience that you may have had, and any military experience that you may have. So I'm going to turn it over to Heather.
All right. Thanks, Randy. A side note in regard to military experience, we talk, you'll see on this list, do include work experience ended within the last 10 years. And we say that as a general rule, but, military experience is the one exception to that rule. If you have that experience, it really deserves its own section at the bottom of the resume. Highlight it. If it's recent for you, then that should be towards the top of your professional experience. It's important information to include. So let's talk about the don'ts. We're not going to include color, borders, icons, pictures, fancy fonts, text boxes, things like that. Things that are going to throw applicant tracking systems off, we don't want to include. Now, if you come from a marketing web-based background, if you are in graphic design and that's your field, you're going to actually have two different types of resumes. You're going to have a simple, straightforward, basic font, black and white resume, right, for the application purposes, but you might have a URL on there that connects an employer directly to an online website or a digital styled resume that you want them to check out so that they can see your design skills specifically. No fancy bullet points. Let's keep those simple on a basic resume. A solid circle is most recommended. And then we don't want to include information on there that's kind of given or understood that it just exists. So if an employer wants to ask you for references, they're going to ask you for references. You don't need to indicate that on your resume. If you are have graduated from a post-secondary institution or you're currently in college, you don't need to have high school information on your resume because you can't be in college with some type of high school or GED completed. So there's no use of this assumed information. You don't want it to take up space. You've got one page to highlight you, and you want to use every space you can to highlight those skills, those qualifications, et cetera. You don't need to use any headers or footers on your resume. Just type your contact information and your name at the top. And make sure your name is the largest font size on the page, too. It's your resume, after all. When you're going to be using bold to highlight something, make sure you're highlighting your job titles. Make sure you're highlighting your the credential that you're in school for or that you've earned at college, because this resume is about you. It's not about your employer. It's not about the college that you've gone to. No work addresses or emails, websites, phone numbers. Make sure that those are all personally tied. And no irrelevant awards, accomplishments, interests, or hobbies. Morgan, do you have anything that you'd like to add in regard to some of these basic do's and don'ts?
Yes, of course. So kind of focusing on the last point. So no irrelevant awards, accomplishments, interests, and hobbies. So this is not to say that your awards and accomplishments aren't recognized or valuable, but I think there's always a space for that, and that space might be LinkedIn, for instance. So you could really highlight your quarterly or yearly achievements on LinkedIn. And it's kind of like a tracking resume rather than just your static resume, which we're reviewing right now. You could also have a mixture or a blend of your personal self as well as your professional self, and utilize that platform to network and connect with other individuals. Whereas your resume, which we're talking about right now, should strictly just be professional, highlighting your professional experience, your skills, your qualifications, as well as your education too. Another thing that we also wanted to talk about are those good do's, right? So also highlight your college degree and any credentials that you've received. Do include some work experiences that within the past 10 years, so make sure that's always current, and make sure that you do have highlighted the time or the duration that you were in that said position. Also, list your education and employment in reverse chronological order. Just as a secret tip, I feel like not a lot of students know this, but make sure that you do submit your resume as a PDF if that's an option. This, again, just makes it easier for the recruiter to access your resume compared to other platforms like Word. So just make sure that you're doing everything and anything in your power to make it easy to pass on that information to the recruiter. And then finally, do use job description keywords on your resume. Again, this will allow the recruiter to know that you are highly skilled in the position that you're applying for because you do share similar responsibilities or skills that the hiring manager is looking for.
Awesome. I love the fact that you highlighted LinkedIn. I think it's really important. You know, we talked about using a URL to some sort of web-based, and if you have a complete LinkedIn profile and you're connecting and networking through LinkedIn, it's great to be able to include that on your resume and then send that recruiter, hiring manager to that profile to get a little bit more detail.
Yes, definitely.
So you might be at, watching this, you're at the career fair, you're ready to jump in and network with employers, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? My resume needs revision. Randy, what are some of the top quick fixes that people can think about, or things that they can do before they jump in and share their resume with employers at the virtual career fair?
Yes, there are some things you can do. If you look at your resume and you say, well, gee, I've got a page and a half and instead of one page, you can always adjust the margins and reassess that space to kind of create that one page or that visual consistency on there. If you've got a normal margin set to normal, you can set them to wide, and that'll reset all your information so that you can make a quick fix on that. Always make sure that all your contact information is accurate. If an employer can't get a hold of you, or they try your phone number, they're not going to try again if they don't get a hold of you and can't leave a message. Also, make sure that your professional summary and your skills, like Morgan was saying, align with the job description and the position that you're applying for. Always double check that spelling and the grammar. There's spell check on every computer nowadays. There's also a great resource called Grammarly, which is, if you're a Rasmussen student, you know all about that. But that is a great resource also to check your spelling and your grammar, because as Morgan will attest to, nothing will turn off an employer faster than if you say you have attention to detail and you have lots of spelling errors or grammar errors in your resume. And do not write like you write a text. Write like you know how to write. So also, if you have any other questions about any of this stuff during the virtual career fair, you can contact a career service advisor in our career readiness resources room in the lounge, and we'll be available there all during the duration of the career fair. Also, you want to check out any of our resources. On YouTube, we have lots of playlists there, lots of videos. You go to our Rasmussen College Library and Learning Services page, to the Career Services tab, and there's a playlist of lots of YouTube videos that are available for you to check out from this webinar, from this virtual career fair, and also from past webinars that we've done are all cataloged there. And also, students and alumni of Rasmussen College can go and check out any career services resources and find out who your career service advisor is for your program by logging into your student portal, and under the resources tab, go to career services. I'll turn it over to Heather and Morgan for any last words.
Yeah, before we jump into any questions that you might have, I wanted to just turn it over to Morgan to give any thoughts behind additional tips or even quick fixes prior to networking with employers at the virtual career fair.
Yeah, so one quick fix that I just want to mention, because I've came in contact with a couple of individuals in the past, and this has always been a huge miss for some reason. But Randy, I think this was maybe like one of the first bullet points that you highlighted, but making sure that you are present and you have the correct contact information. So make sure that your inbox is clear so you don't have a full inbox on your phone, as well as you're paying attention to your email too. So I think it might even be beneficial to have a separate professional email, so you have clearly all of those email threads of past employers or future employers, so you're not getting lost in scheduling or upcoming interviews that you might have. So aside from that, just another tip that I wanted to provide you guys is really do make sure that your resumes are unique to each job position that you're applying for. And this doesn't have to be like a huge rebranding of your whole resume, but just being mindful of the position that you're applying for and highlighting those skills that they're looking for and placing that on your resume if it's something that you identify with. Again, these are things that employers are continuously looking for. So if you have that highlighted on your resume, then you're standing out as a key candidate. Another side note that if you do decide to do a cover letter, for instance, I would just say really do align with the company that you're applying with, and you could align with them in a multitude of different ways. So how they're progressing their corporation or their company's values and mission statements. So for instance, the reason why I chose Tech Data is because we shared similar values with collaboration and inclusion. So that's something that I was personally very passionate about. And for you as a future candidate, you just have to find that common similarity, and that's something that you could showcase either on your cover letter or especially in the interview with the employer.
All right. Well, thank you much for all you that are out there listening to this webinar. Also, thank you to Heather, and a special thank you to our special guest, Morgan. Appreciate you guys giving your input into this webinar. It's always excellent to have you on here.
Yeah, thank you, Randy and Heather. And to anyone watching, you guys can connect with me via LinkedIn. So just plugging LinkedIn again.
Thank you, Morgan.
All right. Thank you again, everybody.